even if it's we're done, we don't even want to look any further, we're out of here. So wherever you're going, find a network of people you can trust. Agents, legal advisors, inspectors, all of these different people are super important to you having good investment.
Welcome to the REI Partners Meetup. We're your hosts, Matt Morrow and Richard Clark. This is a place where knowledge is shared, friends collaborate, as we help each other to succeed in both our real estate and personal goals. We are a group of like-minded individuals from across the country who are here to help and support each other. Investors, realtors, entrepreneurs, and many others contribute to providing diverse and practical content for our events, especially our mentors who enjoy helping new and experienced investors in their journeys. Thanks for joining. We hope you enjoy the show and encourage you to bring others who may find value as we invest in our collective future.
Welcome, everybody, to REI Partners November Meetup. I'm Richard Clark, working with Matt Morrow and John Wargo, and we are going to have an interesting conversation today. I'm a private equities professional out here in Western PA / Ohio area, and I've been doing real estate for about 5 years now, and looking forward to working with many of you to see your investment in real estate goals be achieved. So with that, we'll go around the table here. And Matt, if you want to introduce yourself, and then John, and then all the rest of the participants on the call.
Right on. Hey, everybody. Most of you know me. I'm Matt, real estate investor and agent out of the Allentown market. Happy to announce we have a pretty awesome real estate team we have formed and going here. So I'm pretty sure everybody on the call knows about us, but I'm just happy to connect with everybody and provide some value. Hopefully, we can do some deals together. So we'll go down the list. I'll start off with Sarah. I know you're driving. Are you able to unmute for a quick sec? Oh, it didn't take. Want to try the unmute again? If not, it's all right. We can circle back to you. No, we'll come back to you in a minute, Sarah. Heather.
Hi, everybody. I'm I'm in a car, but I'm not driving. See, no hands. My name's Heather Rui. I am new at investing. I'm so excited. I am a data analyst by day and investor by night and weekends, and happy to be here with everybody.
Awesome. Thanks. Bob Sacco from the car as well.
Yes, good afternoon. How are you? I'm Bob Sacco. I'm sitting in the parking lot of the mall while the better half does some shopping. And bought my first rental property in '96, sold most of them about 4 or 5 years ago, and looking to get back into it.
Awesome. Harris, how's it going, buddy? Thanks for joining.
Hey man, how you doing today? I'm great, man. I'm glad to be here. I'm Harris. Currently here at the office, working, but on lunch, but not really. Brand new to investing, and hoping to be working with John and Matt, and great to meet everybody.
Awesome. Thanks. Ken?
Oh, come on.
There you go.
Sorry. Technology issues. My name's Ken Morrow. I'm Matt's dad. Recently new to investing. Been in about a year. Bought a 5-unit building in Copley, Pennsylvania, and so far things are going well. Hope to learn a little today, and I guess that's it.
Awesome. Jordan, are you able to unmute, do a quick intro?
Yeah, how's it going, guys? My name is Jordan Inacio. I'm similar to like Heather, I'm an engineer by day and then an investor by night and weekends. I have one student rental near Lehigh University, and then my primary house is not too far away from there too. Looking to invest into another property soon.
Awesome. Elaine.
Hello, everyone. I am new to investing, hope to acquire my first property next year, and working on a number of different projects, including possibly putting together an investment consortium for real estate acquisitions that would be shopping and restaurant attached. So we'll see. I'm glad to be here.
Great,
And
thanks.
now I live north, by the way, Matt. You didn't know that. I moved up to Delaware.
Oh, no more Florida. Very nice.
No
Welcome
more
to the winter.
Florida. Yeah, I'd rather have winter actually. Love the four seasons. Glad to be here.
Great. PJ and I just dropped in. We're doing a quick intro for everybody.
Hey, what's up, Matt? Nice to see your face. I think we've chatted on the phone, but yeah, I'm TJ. I actually just started my own like software platform that is has to do with security deposits and like providing security deposit alternatives. And my family's been real estate investing for a long time. My dad's pretty active with it up in like the Boston area, and yeah, I'm hopefully a future real estate investor myself. So yeah, it's nice to meet y'all.
Awesome. Thanks for joining. Let's see, Fatima, are you on the phone?
Yes. Hello. Sorry, it's Stephanie and Fatima. We're
Hey, what's
actually in the
going
car.
Oh, hey guys.
Yeah, so I was on the last call last time. So basically we're both pretty much starting out investors. I have two single family homes and one multi-family, and Fatima also has a single family home. So we're just here trying to two single family homes, I'm sorry. So we're just here trying to get more information and hopefully start on a new deal. So yeah, nice to meet everybody.
Awesome. Thanks for joining.
Thanks.
And CJ and John in the room. If you guys want to just pass that computer around.
All right. You guys can hear us now, hopefully. Hey everyone, CJ Sabo. I'm a real estate agent on the team here with Matt and John. So pleasure to meet everyone. I'm from the Allentown, the Lehigh Valley area.
John Wargo. I'm a realtor, work with Matt. We have the Morrow Wargo team here in the Lehigh Valley and spreading out. Did my first investment in 2003, 5-unit. And just looking forward to working with everybody here coming up soon in the future.
Hey guys, my name is Braden Ricco. I'm a loan officer on the David Green team from Bigger Pockets, the one brokerage. And I'm also a car dealer as well, and investor in the automotive space. So looking to take my fix and flip habits from there to real estate. So happy to be here.
Hang on, I'm going to put you on the spot. Don't leave yet.
Everybody,
this kid, he's mid-20s, has a fully functioning automotive repair business that he's looking to scale. He's in the mortgage business and he's looking to be a real estate investor. You're going to see his name a lot. So just kind of keep that in mind. He's crushing it, and we're gonna watch Braden do some pretty awesome things. So sorry to put you on the spot, buddy, but 26 years old, you're killing it.
Thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
Okay, yours.
All right. Anybody else want to do an intro?
Yes.
Sarah Lee, nothing. Okay, cool. Sarah Anderson, I know you're just called in again. You want to try again? All right. If not, it's all good. We'll get everybody before the end. I'm going to share my screen here. We're going to do our normal just disclaimers and talk about everything. Again, I am presenting from a hopefully decent quality hotel Wi-Fi system. So if it drops off, I'll be right back. So please let me know if you can see the screen. Can everybody see the PowerPoint presentation that's up?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, awesome. I'm going to minimize this. What we are doing here today is discussing avoiding bad deals, running numbers, and estimating the true after repair value. These are some pretty important things when you're looking to be a real estate investor. And I'm going to pause a few times because we could talk about this stuff for days and days. Poll the group to see if you have any questions or experience, or maybe see if there's something that we can help you guys understand. At the end, just totally open forum, talking, networking. I know it's kind of hard to do that on the phone or if you're calling in from somewhere, but this is really important stuff that you want to know before you get into your first deal. So I had a lot of fun making this thing. We had a presentation a few months ago about AI and the benefits of using artificial intelligence in real estate. And this presentation is going to be a pretty cool example of what it did for us. So thanks for joining. These are the goons. That's Richard's face because he won't put it on the presentation here. So I'm going to share it anyway. And our guy, Ryan, who helps us put together all the stuff for REI Partners. A few disclaimers that we're going to talk about here. This information is provided as a educational piece only. It is not actual investing advice. We are not licensed to help you in investments. So please do not take anything you say today as a direct influence or a directive, how to invest. We have experience, but we're just guys talking about real estate and gals talking about real estate. So another disclaimer, a lot of the stuff you're going to see on here, the data is ours, but a lot of the images were created by AI. Chat GPT is awesome. And if you're not doing it, find a way to be a part of it because it's pretty cool. So we did the introductions. That was our first in-person meetup we did. If you could see this, pretty good turnout. Most people on the team, some guys calling in. Thanks everybody for joining. So the single most powerful asset we have is our mind. If it's trained well, we can create enormous wealth. Everybody knows who Robert Kiyosaki is. If you don't, find out, go get his books and read it. This is going to be on every one of our future events because this is exactly what we're doing today. We're learning to become better investors. You don't want to dive into something if you don't know about it. Goals for today are to equip you with insights and tools necessary to make informed decisions. The focus is to avoid bad deals. We're going to teach you about real estate investments, discerning good from bad, and talking about ARV. And then there's obviously challenges, and we'll hopefully get to that with the time at the end. What's a bad deal? Bad deals are relative. To some people, might be something small. To other people, a few $100 million lost is a drop in the bucket. So before you get in, know what you're getting into and know your personal exposures. Your limits are always going to change, but consult the professionals, teams, and just because it's a bad deal for you doesn't mean it's a bad deal for somebody else. If you happen to get into a bad deal, the silver lining is you're going to learn a lot from it, even if it's just how not to do that again. Here's some examples of a few bad deals. Again, relative numbers. Negative cash flow. If you're losing money every month, it might not be a great deal to get into. If the operating expenses in your mortgage exceed the income, negative cash flow is where it is. Again, this might not be a bad investment. If you're in an area where the properties are going up in value 10 to 12% year over year, you could be losing money every month on cash flow and be gaining an astronomical amount of wealth and appreciation. In the Allentown market, Pittsburgh, things like this, you want to have positive cash flow because the appreciation is 2 to 4%. Los Angeles, Houston, Dallas, things like that, you're never going to have positive cash flow unless you buy it cash. So the appreciation is what you're investing for. If you have negative $1,000 a month cash flow on a property in Los Angeles because a single family ranch cost $1 million to buy, but it goes up in value $50,000 a year, it's all about the optics. You're actually making money. But to us in our market, that wouldn't be a good deal. High vacancy rates. If you have a lot of vacancy, people are flooding out, probably not a place you want to invest. Detroit is an example of that quite a few years ago when everybody was pulling out and moving companies. Again, it might be a good opportunity for someone. If it's a declining neighborhood, crime rates on the rise, things like this, you might want to check the long-term value of this property. Overpaying. This is where our team, again, I try not to take off the hat and put an agent hat on, but to talk at you straight, if you're overpaying for a property, it's not a good investment. You become a retail buyer the second you pay higher than sticker price. If you need to have that big shiny property, that big shiny pickup truck from the lot, the second you buy it, it's going to go down in value. So just be wary of overpaying. Structural problems obviously can be expensive, but if you buy it for the right dollar amount, everything has a monetary value to fix. So everything's relative. Bad tenants, same thing. Tenants can be removed. We had an investor get a property in Philly not too long ago. Tenants were there, but they were not there legally and they couldn't show any paperwork, and the whole thing fell apart because the numbers did not match up. We couldn't check all the boxes. So bad tenants or undocumented or anything like that, you just want to be sure that you can prove that it is legitimately able to be rented. For liquidity, if you can't sell, that's a huge concern for ARV. It might be worth $1 million, even if you got it for free. If you can't sell it, you might want to be concerned about that. Regulatory issues, like if you want to have a property conformed from commercial use into residential, our team just dealt with this not too long ago. There were too many question marks to have the deal be 100% go. And obviously someone's going to get the deal. But if zoning is a problem for your intended use, that could be a deal breaker. Environmental problems, asbestos, lead-based paint, mold. Again, everything has a monetary value, but that could be a deal breaker. Low appreciation potential. Even though you might get the problem for a steal, that single family home in the middle of a row in downtown Class B city might not go up in value the way you think it will. So although it does cash flow every month, you might not have the investment that you believe it is. High maintenance costs. The older the property is, typically the higher the maintenance is, which is why a lot of investors are trying to get in a low barrier of entry with a newer property because they reduce the old building costs. In most cities that we operate, buildings are routinely 100 years old. It's not a big deal. They stand the test of time, but investors want to buy a newer property. Any agent and any investor who's been in the business for a little while could probably tell you that a new construction building in no way, shape, or form means a better investment. The quality of construction is much lower. They do it for the cheapest dollar. So just keep that in mind. Economic instability. If you're in a region with high unemployment or declining industries, that can be very, very risky. And if you're remotely investing, you might never know what that agent or what that area is doing unless you talk to some local experts. So the next section is going to be about finding location and researching it, but learn about the economy of where you're going to buy. Economies can change block to block, zip code to zip code. It's not just based on state. Inadequate insurance. Yes, every property can be insured, but some actually can't. We were just rejected for one of ours because it didn't have fire escapes. They simply would not write a policy on it. And it is what it is. Someone will for the right value, but they put a dollar value on that. However, some properties up against like border or a flood zone or things like that might not be insurable. And you don't want to own the property and figure out you can't insure it. Complex deals. This is a big one. And a complex deal is not, it's not huge. It doesn't have to be an apartment building or a development. It could be a single family home. Uncertain outcomes are risky. A complex deal can be something like dealing with an estate or a seller finance obligation where you're not dealing with traditional banks. It gets a little bit more risky the more you get into it. Doesn't mean it can't be overcome. High interest rates. If you talk to anybody right now who's not educated in real estate, they're going to say the high interest rates are deterring people from buying. And that, although is true, is not the right way to approach this. The interest rate is just a variable that moves with time. The house and its value over time, or the building and its value of time over time, is the true value in real estate. So you're going to date the rate and marry the house. That's how we do this. You're in it for the long haul with the house, but the rate is not going to last too long. How many people do you know that have a 30-year mortgage that have never refinanced? Virtually none. They all refinance when the terms are better or where they need to refinance out. So interest rates are a deterrent, but they should not be. If the numbers work, regardless what the interest rates are, the numbers work. So we'd be happy to explain that. I know one of our agents, he's on the call here, CJ, he did a video about this not too long ago. Find his page, watch it. Really, really good information because it's just uneducation. The interest rates are not deal breakers. Here's how you avoid the bad deals. This is the nitty gritty of the first part. You got to know your goals and you want to know your returns. Market knowledge and research, build a team that you can trust, due diligence, do not rush. And if you get under contract, write it so that you can walk away. All right. I love this AI stuff. Pretty cool pictures. Knowing your goals. What's important to you? Everyone has different things that are important to them. Could be appreciation, like we talked about. Could be cash flow, tax liability, offsetting tax liability, practical use. Maybe you want to live in this thing. I know we have a few people on the call who want to buy a 2 or 3 unit and they want to live in one and basically live for free to jumpstart their investing. That is a different approach to real estate investing than if you were to just buy for long-term cash flow. You're getting use and practicality of it. Do you want to hands-off operate this thing or have someone professionally manage it? Or are you going to manage it yourself? All of these things are items that you need to know beforehand, but specifically, what type of investment return do you want? If you want cash flow, how much cash flow you want or how much cash flow you want per door. But all aside, just have a simple plan. It's going to change 15 times. You're going to evolve. Everybody learns more as you go. Just don't dive in without any education. Does anybody have any questions as we go here? I know just looking at everybody on the call, there is 1, 2, 3, at least 3 who are house hacking or owner occupying. There's quite a few others who are looking for the cash flow so that they can retire from their jobs. Retire not because of the age or point of career, they just might want a career change. And about half of the people on the call manage their properties themselves. Knowing your market. Again, what's important to you? All these questions should be asked again. Appreciation, cash flow, tax liability, practicality, and management in every single market you go to. If you invest in a property in Florida, it's going to be different than if you were to go to Idaho or Pennsylvania or Maine. You know, people who are from New York, New Jersey, anywhere usually is a better investment on paper than where they live. So find the market, do some research, and figure out a way that you can make it work. But don't make the numbers work. They either do or they don't. This is a clip from the last meetup. Location, location, location. This is critically important. Everything on this screen, I'm not going to review it all for the sake of time, but whichever market you're getting into, talk to the person you're working with, whether it be an agent, a wholesaler, another investor you're partnering with. Learn everything about the market that you can, because you do not want to go back in time when it's too late and try and fix things.
Hey, Matt.
Be reliable network. Richard, sorry, go ahead.
Just one quick comment. For a lot of you new investors on the call, think about investing where you're local. You want to make sure that you're able to, if you want to understand the market, the first place to look is where you live. Buying someplace where you do not live, some remote place, and we have a lot of investors come through that want to invest in Pittsburgh or Allentown or Harrisburg or other places, but they've never visited them. So I tend to discourage that behavior, but I don't discourage any opportunity to help an investor. But look where you're local. and see what the market is first. And if you're a new investor, look at as a way of learning, look at where you are and begin evaluating deals locally, even if they're not deals necessarily that you can take advantage of. So just something to think about. Go ahead, man.
That's great advice. Thanks, Rich. Regardless of where you go, whether it's in your backyard or somewhere else, building a reliable network is super important. Trusted professionals are completely underrated. Half the people you talk to, especially wholesalers, are in the mindset of trying to avoid paying the professionals to help. However, if it saves you on a bad deal, having someone look at the property beforehand is critical. We have clients that pay home inspectors, contractors to come out and look at properties beforehand just so that they can make an educated decision. Even if it's we're done, we don't even want to look any further, we're out of here. So wherever you're going, find a network of people you can trust. Agents, legal advisors, inspectors, all of these different people are super important to you having good investment. It involves co-investors, partners, people who you're doing business with need to be comfortable with the deals you're doing. If you have a mentor, they should be involved in the process as well. If you need a mentor, reach out. A lot of people on this call are willing to help people through deals, become part of deals. We just like helping people. Agents and brokers, contractors, inspectors, attorneys, accountants, anybody you can imagine, they're all part of your network. And you don't want to find these people after you have a deal. Due diligence, this is huge. Once you have the property, doing your background research is critical. This entire business is about mitigating risk. And if you can get into a property with low risk, you're going to have a much higher rate of return long term. So due diligence is key to making a good investment. Comprehensive process of investigating a property, everything you can do. This is a shot of our good friend Mike. He's a home inspector in the Allentown area. He's out there killing it. Every time we need a deal inspected, he's there up on the roof with the drone and the sewer pipes and the attics. It's due diligence. But that's just physical due diligence. There's so much more that goes into it. This is critical. Identifying potential issues or hidden costs beforehand that could impact the profitability. Skipping it can lead to mistakes.
And it's one of the biggest.
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's one of the biggest mistakes new investors make is underestimating the capitalization cost of the investment. So due diligence, again, is extremely important.
The older and bigger the building, the more you need to allow. So you don't want to get into a property with 5% down and not have anything in the bank account if there's a problem. So plan for those big issues, especially on single family homes, but more importantly, multifamily commercial. Okay. This is a screenshot from one of our programs about evaluation. We'll review this here in a little bit, but it's not just about the purchase price. There's a lot of different factors that go into it. Breakdown of closing costs, fees, transfer taxes, things like that. HOA fees, property taxes, and then cash flow projections based on what you think it can rent for, what it's actually renting for. And then once you include your renovations and things like that, what is this thing really doing as an investment? Part of investigating is beyond aesthetics. It can't just look good because a lot of things that look good aren't really good. This is an example that was from the last meetup as well. Knob and tube wiring in a basement or a property that's in Philadelphia right in the middle of a flood zone. They could be beautiful properties. You can't fix flood zone. You can fix knob and tube. And that has just a monetary value you'd want to know going into it. So assess the renovation costs and consider environmental factors that are outside of your control. If you have a property anywhere south of the Carolinas, you're going to need wind damage protection, and that is expensive. We had some clients that got quotes for properties down there, and it was upwards of $10,000 to $12,000 a year for wind damage. It's ridiculous, but you're guaranteed to have a hurricane at some point. Do your research.
One thing about the HOA fees, just make sure that you get a copy of the bylaws, because if you're buying the property to rent it out, the bylaws may prevent that. There's a number of things that can get in the way of your investment if it is in a development where there's an HOA.
Yep. And one thing that we had some clients learn, if it's an HOA or condo association, guys, not only do those fees cover things that are nice, like grass, roof, things like that, snow removal, but they might not. They might not cover roof. They might not cover exterior work. And there might be clauses in these bylaws for any HOA or any condo association that doesn't allow them to be rented. So you really want to know where you're buying a property and if it can be rented to begin with. So don't just buy it because it sounds good on paper. Do your due diligence. If there's one slide of the entire presentation that I could stress and just blow up and print to a poster, this will be it. Do not rush into a deal. If you are in such a hurry to get to a deal, something bad is going to happen. We have friends and clients who are very aggressively looking for deals, and that's one thing, but it's another to write offers and be not irresponsible, but so aggressive that you're going to overlook something. If you're working with a team, they shouldn't let you do this. But please, please, please do not rush into a deal. You will be sorry. Things are going to happen that are out of your control. And once you're in a deal, it's very, very difficult to get back out unscathed. So do not rush into a deal. If it looks good, write a contract, put it all together, have someone look over this contract. If you're working with an agent, review it with them. Make sure they take the time to review all the stuff with you and build in the appropriate provisions. So avoiding bad deals doesn't stop after you've evaluated the deal. It continues all the way to the point where you close and operate on the deal, because it could become a bad deal after you buy it. If there's something that comes up that might be out of your control beforehand, you still have to worry about it. So it all starts with protecting your interest in the contract. This is my favorite picture of the whole one. Contract protections are huge. When you get into a deal and you want to write a contract on it, you need contingencies. The more contingencies you have, the safer your offer is for you. The less attractive it is to the person selling it. And if they're professionally represented, then you're probably going to have a hard time actually selling or actually buying this property with that contract. There's financing contingencies for mortgages if you need it. Home inspection, if you want to get a home inspector in there. Appraisal, meaning it has to appraise for what you offered. Sale of the current home, if you have to sell your house to buy the new one. If you need to put earnest money down, basically your skin in the game, how much money you're willing to commit to the contract to show that you won't actually default. Title insurance, if you have a mortgage, you are required to have title insurance. That bank will not allow you to get the loan without title insurance. Clear and marketable title is huge as well. Just because you can get insurance doesn't mean that that title insurance is not clear. So going back in time, is this property legally allowed to be sold? Is it safely habitable? Warranty of habitability will be required by the bank or anyone else. Disclosures, reviewing all the disclosures if they exist. Just because it's disclosed doesn't mean that's the limit. You know, we have clients who assume that the seller's disclosure is everything that's wrong with the property. In fact, it's actually very much the opposite. That's the stuff the seller wants you to know about. We all know how honest people are, and you got to just take it with a grain of salt. So what stuff's there that you want to keep? Do you want the washer and dryer? If it's part of the tenant's lease, it has to come with the property anyway. So we got to write that in there. Closing costs, possession, disputes, if there's a home warranty you want, and the right to a walkthrough. Obviously, there's all these different things you want to write in your contract. Here's some errors, some misconceptions when you're purchasing real estate to be aware of. High returns always have high risks. It doesn't matter what anybody says. If you want to get a high interest rate return on whatever your investing is, it's high risk. The nice thing about real estate is you could hedge against those risks with different things you could do, due diligence, contracts, things like that. While they can be associated with high risk, it's not always the case in real estate. So obviously we can't give you investing advice, but overestimating ARV, which is something we're going to talk about shortly, is a trap. Do not look at Zillow and see what the Zestimate says and assume that is your ARV for a property. It is wrong. And on the small chance that it's right, it's still wrong because you have to prove it. And it doesn't matter what you say. It matters what the bank says when you refinance. Richard, John, do you guys have any comments on estimating or overestimating this ARV? Because we see it happen a lot, especially with flippers and people in a burst scenario. Anybody have any comments on this?
Well, the only thing I would say to it, Matt, is that ARV is really it is an estimate. It's an estimate based on certain parameters, largely involving the market that the house is or the property is in. So when you're looking at a property and you see the ARV is, or the selling price is, say $100,000, and the properties in that area are selling for right around $150,000.
Did we lose you? Does
that make sense?
Are you there, Rich?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I got you now, yeah.
Okay, all right. Did you get what I just said?
We got the first half of it.
Is largely, it's really what the property can be appraised at. That's really what you're ultimately going to be looking at. If the property can't appraise from value you need to finance it or something like that, then you're going to find yourself in a bit of trouble. As I said, if the average price of similar properties are selling for $150,000, and your buy price is $100,000, using that as an example, then you can fairly estimate that the property is going to be, the ARV is going to be somewhere between. So, but if you see something that says the property, or if the agent tells you, or anyone suggests that property value is much higher because of some special feature that the property may have or something like that, they may have a pool or it may have a larger lot, then you can probably take that with a grain of salt and say, well, don't take that chance and assume that that property is going to be $175,000 if the average price is around $150,000. There may be a little bit of concession, a little bit of value placed in special features, but not always.
It's really hard to hear you, Richard. We got like half of that.
Okay.
I think Elaine, you have your hand raised.
Hey, I'm again new to investing. I think there are a few people on the call that are, but one of the things that I learned when I was looking for my first home was it isn't what the properties are listing for, it's what the properties have sold for in the last few months. And when I purchased my first home, I paid $445 and sold it 2 years later for $805. But I couldn't do that until the guy down the road sold his for $799. And that put our valuation somewhere between $805 and $830. And I listed it on the low end because I wanted to sell it quickly. So again, don't look at Zillow estimates. I'm glad you brought that up because the Zillow estimates are not going to be a good guide for you as a new investor. Look at what the properties in the area have sold for, and compare features, compare square footage, compare acreage, etc. So
that's a great point. Sold properties are the only thing that matters.
Right.
No listed properties, no under contract properties. And I don't mean to hate on Zillow because they do have their great options, especially when it comes to like rental estimates and things like that. They are very accurate. I mean, if you're a remote investor looking in a market, you could use Zillow as a good guide, but you definitely want to talk to an agent in the market or someone there to learn specifically the values. And just because the neighbor's house sold for X does not mean yours is remotely close. There's lots of variables through square footage, bedroom, bath count, lot types, utilities. So, just make sure you're talking to somebody who has a clue before you assume the ARV. And the reason we bring this up now, knowing the approximate ARV before you buy is critical. Once you're in the deal, it doesn't matter what it's worth after the fact. You're committed. You never make a purchase in investment real estate without knowing before you get into how much this thing's going to be worth without a reasonable doubt at the end. So we'll get into that here shortly. Hitting costs, taxes, fees, unexpected repairs is a huge error. It happens to everybody, which is why we don't suggest you buy investment real estate without some sort of backup fund, and always account for some sort of issues arising, whether it be overages in a renovation budget or surprises that you're not expecting. Here's ARV. This picture sums it up nicely. It's not always the dilapidated house. It could be a house that needs just a little cosmetics inside. How to calculate it. Comps are everything. I'll say that 1,000 times. The ARV is just a number in space, and it moves every single day. And it's purely what the appraiser will think it's worth. It doesn't matter what you think it's worth or what your agent thinks it's worth. It matters what you can prove to an appraiser. Gathering data on comp sales is super important. Sourcing for that data, the appraiser is going to use the MLS. They will not use Zillow. They will not use realtor.com. They don't care if the home sold off market as a private sale. They're going to use the MLS because it's data backed by licensed and insured real estate agents, and that's where they have it. If your appraiser can't find comps, you need to provide them the good ones. These sources are not flawless, so just keep that in mind. This is just data. We have had issues with it before, but that's why you want to build in some sort of buffer. Selection for comps. When you're looking for properties, sold properties only, not under contract, not just listed, doesn't matter, sold only within a 1 mile radius, typically of the subject property. This is more of like a city or suburban area. If you get more rural and you're looking for like farms, like some of our parts of the Lehigh Valley, definitely out where like Richard is in Western PA, Eastern Ohio, you might have to go 5-10 miles for single family comps. Once you get into duplexes, triplex, commercial buildings, some of our appraisers for some of our buildings have searched 20-mile rings or more to find a property that's remotely close in size and style. So as your asset class changes, your range for these comps is also going to change. But for example, we have some clients working in Center City, Philly. Your comp ring is no more than a quarter mile. If it's past the quarter mile, it's wrong. It has to be on a certain side of a street. If there's a big highway or railroad tracks or a river that separates, even though it might be within a quarter mile, it's all bad data. So just know the area, which is where talking to your local professionals is important. Again, location analysis. The micro location differences is super important. Across the street, proximity to schools, school districts are huge because that's where the tax assessor defines for your school taxes. That's the most high quantity tax of anyone's property is the school taxes. So check things like that. Property similarity, architectural styles, age, lot size, all play a part in it. However, the biggest one is sale date. If you have a 50-acre farm and a 20-acre farm, you would think that 30-acre difference is a huge splash in value. It might not make a difference at all. So the acres and the size of the property are really the least affected piece in ARV. Square footage, bedroom, bath count are the absolute biggest spreaders in value. Adjustment for differences, and I'll go through an example with everybody here in a second for this. If a comp has a feature subject property does not, like additional bathroom, or maybe has one less bedroom, you have to adjust the comp's selling price, either up or down, for this. It's critical, and it's the only way you're going to know. There are programs that automate this, but that's how we do it. The market dynamics are huge. Is the property in a growing area? Is the property declining? Because that can swing the price 10, 20% in some areas. Is it a buyer's market or seller's market? The appraiser will notify you and the buyer on these types of things in their report. The condition of the property, is it average, average plus, below average, things like this. And they always change the value of the property based on this. Time adjustments. Is the market appreciating or depreciating? How long are the properties that are for sale actually on the market? If you have a market where the days on market average is 4 to 5 days, the appraiser knows that this place is hot and it's going to go fast. Hence, they'll be more willing to give the value to your property. However, if the time on market 60, 90 days, they know the market's slow. So you need to prove that your value's there. Banks who order appraisers are forbidden from talking with the appraiser. Agents, owners, neighbors are all allowed to talk to the appraiser directly. We just had one a few days ago where we had to call the appraiser at 10 o'clock at night, yell at him to get the appraisal because the closing was the next day. The bank was not allowed to do it. It was a VA loan. The lender was forbidden from talking to this appraiser. But I found his cell phone number, found his thing online, and I was calling him. Everybody else was calling him. And surprisingly, the report showed up at 3 a.m. in the morning. So if you have a deal that's hinging on a appraisal and a time frame, just know who can contact him. I know Braden's in the room. He's a lender. He knows the rules. He can't contact the appraiser directly. He'll lose his license. Average of adjusted comps is kind of how you go at this at the end. If you have all these comps, you match them up, 1 comp, 2 comp, 3 comp, and then you average them in the end. That's usually where the value comes, but that's with a big asterisk of it's not always that way. Multifamily is not based on square footage. It's based on net operating income. Commercial is based on price per square foot. Restaurants, things like that. There's all these different approaches to ARV. So we'll just review them on a high level here. Anybody have any questions about this so far? Here's an example of a CMA that was done for one of our clients in Bethlehem. This is a single family property that was purchased and they were thinking about selling it. So we were giving them a market analysis. Now, there are no adjustments here on a high level. I'll review that here in a minute. But you want to look at properties of similar types. Single family homes can only be comped against single family homes. If it's a side-by-side or a duplex, it can only be comped against a side-by-side or another duplex. You cannot take a side-by-side home like you see there and comp it against a single-family detached house. You cannot comp a multifamily against a single family. End unit rows and middle unit rows, there is some value there, but just know the properties that you have, don't assume, and this is where Zillow and Realtor get their issues. They just see price per square foot and their high level algorithm, which no one knows the difference, or you got to know what you're looking at here. So this one specifically, we make adjustments for each area as you dive in. And we'll do an example of this. After this, you got to get to work. Find a market that works for you, learn about it, and just go. These are the books we talked about last time. If you haven't read the books on this screen, take a screenshot, watch the video afterwards. Extremely valuable, every single one of them. Definitely Robert Kiyosaki, The Good to Great from Jim Collins, Tax-Free Wealth, Never Split the Difference. Everybody in the room, we love this thing. We use it all the time for real estate negotiation. Take a screenshot, whatever you need. But if you need this afterwards, shoot me a text. There is an entire meetup from August of last year. Nothing but discussing these books. Now, before we go into specific deals and analysts, what kind of questions do we have? Anybody so far? Did my internet kick off? Everybody here?
I'm here, but I can't talk because I keep breaking up.
I heard you there.
We heard you there, Richard.
All right.
I have a question.
Sure.
It's Heather. How would you judge like if an area is declining outside of just asking your real estate?
Richard, do you want to take that while I get the next section going? If
Well,
your mic works.
the question is how can you tell if a property is declining? Is that the question?
I mean, like an area, a town, an area,
Well,
a region.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of statistical data out there that shows where people are moving from and to. I mean, it's really about where people are going. Like, a lot of people are moving out of California to New York because of various reasons, including taxes, crime, whatever the case may be. But you can tell if a property is declining by simply looking at some of those statistics out there. I can't really give you specifics on where to go to find that, but if you're looking locally, you probably know your area pretty well. And one way that I look at it is I go down to the local town housing authority and find out what's going on. Ask questions, talk to them about areas that they're looking to either make opportunity zones or areas in decline. I'll give you an example of an area in decline that's near Matt's world, and that's out near Philadelphia. There's areas out there that you would not want to invest in right now because of the problems associated with those areas, including, crime, drug use, things like that. It's pretty easy to tell if people are moving out. Well, then you don't want to buy there because people are moving out. And if you find that there's look at the crime rate, look at the school district, look at the migration properties of whether or not people are moving into or out of that particular town or city. That's really the only way you know if an area is in decline, if property values are going down. Zillow actually has some information related to that. You can see the graph of property values. For the last few years, it's been going up, up, and up, but there's some areas where it's been going down, and I think you're going to see that trend going into 24. I think we're going to start seeing some normalization of values of properties as the migration potentials begins to die down in 24. So that's the best answer I can give you. I hope that helps.
CJ, for the people that don't have the chat up, can you voice that message that you just typed?
One second. Yeah, no, I put in the chat there if you can't see it. U-Haul and Pods and other moving companies and major corporations do post reports or monthly updates as far as where people are relocating to. It's not going to focus every specific town, but it's going to more highlight, the major cities or just trends that are occurring for those specific areas. So that's always good data to kind of analyze to just see if, the areas that you're thinking about investing in are on, people moving out of or people moving into.
Thank you, both your answers.
Heather, the other thing that we use is right from the census website, the U.S. Census. It's called Metro Analytical Data. And it sounds really high level, but what it is just based on census numbers where people are moving. And similar to the website that CJ just referenced, those are more real time because they see where people are actually moving their stuff through trucks. The census lags a year or two, but they have reports from literally every person. So you can see which markets in general are going up and down. But the best is to reference websites that show like economic indicators. and then just look at those areas.
Okay.
There's not one.
Thank you
that's
so much. Got it.
All right.
Thanks.
I'm going to share my screen again here. Can everybody see this inside of our MLS? All right. So I have a market analysis that we're going to create, pretend that we're creating it for a client. I'm going to just pick one of these properties at random as our subject, as if it were going to be your investment property. So I'm just going to pick this one right here. 7424 Marquis Drive, Upper Macungie. Look who's listing this puppy. This is our broker, Jim, of all people. That's all right. We'll put him on the spot. If you were in the market for a modular home for $150,000, this would be your listing. I don't think a single person on the call is in the market for this, but we'll just show another way of proving that this is a bad investment. So this property, when we're looking at it, has a few different things going for it. It's in Upper Macungie Township. If you're from the area, you're probably familiar with that. List price is ask price, $149,000. It's a new listing, hasn't been on for more than a day. 4-year-old manufactured home. Okay, so manufactured means it was built somewhere else and brought to site. A manufactured home doesn't mean a modular home. Manufactured just means it was built somewhere, transported here, and installed. If it's still on wheels, then it's a modular home. Modular homes are not real estate, they're personal property, just like a camper. Manufactured, as long as they're clamped to the ground and they're permanently installed on a foundation, they actually can be considered real estate. So just going to keep that in mind. When we look at this property, we see that it has 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 1,200 square feet. Here's a big one that kills your cash flow. $440 a month lot rent, which includes water and sewer. So as a landlord, immediately this starts to not look good, right? You have a high purchase price and relative to what you could rent it to. You have a lot rent, all this other stuff. It is a leased lot, so you never actually own the land underneath it, similar to a condo. If you have a condo, you will never, ever, ever own the land that's underneath it. You'll own the structure, but unless you could pick up that house and move it somewhere on one piece, not the greatest, but people invest in condos all the time, so it's your preference. Calling Chris with all details, no lockbox, and then it talks about the property here. When we look at a piece of real estate, we look at this. We go to the tax records. You see the tax records has the whole community on here, not just one lot. That means you'll never own the lot. You just own the modular on top of it. It's owned by Amy. She purchased it for $92,000 in 2020. There's no mortgage. And according to this, it was manufactured in 2020. So this is not the greatest example. But to find comps for this, what we're going to do is we're going to go back in time. We're going to look at this. And then we are going to add this property to our CMA. 7424 Marquis Drive. We're then going to add properties from here to compare against this. We're going to call it 2 miles. We're going to call it residential. We're going to call it manufactured or modular. Again, not the greatest from a real estate investor perspective, but for the purpose of the CMA, we're adding properties to compare to this for adjustments within 2 miles that are similar property type, and there's 4 of them. Whoa, I got to go back in time. I actually have to change this to sold. 0 to 6 months. We only want to look at sold. There's 101. When we do manufactured modular, we're going to move this down to 1 mile. That can't be right. There we go. So there's all these homes that are similar to this last one being sold. We're going to open each one. We're going to look for everything with 3 beds, 2 baths on a manufactured lot. Here we go. Here we go. This is a bad example because this is a home that's permanently installed that's not in a trailer park. Here's one. That looks good. New construction modular. We're going to add that. We're going to add this. Then we're going to add this. What this is going to do is show us in relation to the subject property where these other ones are. And we have to be mindful that if they're too far away, like this is a bad data, I might need to totally start this over. These are way too far away. Miles are not okay. 1 mile, okay. One and 3. So I want to delete 2 and 4. Bear with me, everybody. We're going to start over. This is a property we sold 2 days ago. Single family home, Palmerton, Pennsylvania. Nice shots by our friend Scott. Interior is gorgeous. It's priced at the top end of where it should be because it was recently flipped. If you look at this property a year ago, it was definitely not in this condition. These owners live in, flipped it, and they've done quite a nice job. What we're going to do is we're going to start a CMA. We're going to start it for me. We're going to autofill. We'll see if we can't find properties that this appraiser did not. We're bracketing properties here. So right now there are two, 9 matches. We're just going to add all these. If you can see, they're in pretty close proximity, although a lot of these are not going to be applicable. We're just going to go right to number 7. So adjusting against this property here. This property is sold for $300,000. Our subject does have 3 bedrooms. So we're not going to make any adjustments there. We had 1,600 feet. I'm not sure why it's not showing up here, so I apologize. 1,600 feet total square feet. So we're going to add an adjustment there of $15,000. It was built in 2000, so we're going to add another $5,000. Central AC. Our property does not have central AC, so we're going to take off about $8,000 for that. If you notice, without doing too many adjustments, you see how the adjustment price of this property, which sold for $300,000, comparing it to our house, it would be worth around $312,000. Okay, now this property actually sold for $327,000 because that's what someone was offering to pay for it. But this is how we adjust property values. In our market, bedroom on a single family home is worth around $20,000 to $25,000. So you make an adjustment there. A bathroom is worth between $5,000 and $8,000. So we make an adjustment there. Condition of home, same thing, a few percentage points. If it has a new roof, great. There's not really an adjustment for a new roof because it's assumed to be the similar quality to other properties of a similar condition. If you're on a big lot, not a huge adjustment, maybe a few $1,000s an acre. Same thing with age. If you have a home from 2005, it's a lot different than a home from 1905. The home itself is what's worth the money here. So we make the adjustments. And this here would be your ARV. When you're looking to buy a home, you want to make the adjustments off of your comparables to get this. So the fact that this home sold for $327,000 is a little bit high, but that's what the people were willing to pay. Does anybody have any questions about this? No? Everybody's still there? How about the guys in the room? I can see you guys. I want to put John on the spot. Where is he? Is he sleeping?
You weren't talking to me, right?
John. The other bald guy. There he is. All right. So, John, we've had a lot of people in the last year get ARVs that were pretty close to where we thought they were, and we've had a few that were really far off. What are some things that you've seen when working with clients on our team that people go wrong, whether from a buyer or a seller perspective?
From the seller perspective, normally they overrate the condition of their house compared to what a buyer would compare it. Just because, and I'm thinking of one very recently, it was in good shape. If you went back to 1975, I mean, the way the wallpaper and carpeting and decor, things like that, it was very clean. It just hadn't been updated, and the seller thought it was worth $15,000 more than we kind of thought it was. And again, compared it to a house right down the street, which had granite countertops and all new backsplash, and hers had Formica and wallpaper. So from the seller perspective, from the buyer perspective, and this is the one thing that I would caution most is don't force the ARV because you want to get the property. You might in your head tend to go, oh, well, look at this, and oh, look at that, just to justify it in your own head. And that's probably the worst thing to do. Take the more you start saying, well, it's only 8 rooms that need to be redone completely and drywalled, and and now you're looking at a $40,000 bill to do that. From the buyer perspective, be conservative. If anything, is make sure compared to the other properties in the neighborhood, you're just because it's an income property bringing in, two incomes, doesn't triple the price of the house, and doesn't mean that the seller didn't way overestimate just to kind of see where people would come in at. So really do your own logic check to other properties in that area. But those are the two that I would say is be conservative as a buyer, and as a seller, be realistic.
How many times have people on the call seen a wholesaler's estimate of rehab be wildly off what it should normally be?
That's always.
Every time. Every single time. If you guys look at properties from wholesalers and they come to you from anywhere else, just be very, very careful of what they say this property is worth and what they say the renovation budget is, because they're the ones making a profit off the difference. CJ, you had a client just a week or two ago with a potential underestimation of rehab costs, and maybe an underestimation of both rehab costs and ARV. What are your thoughts from that experience, and what we ended up doing?
Oh, I mean, the biggest thing obviously is just making sure the numbers are accurate. I mean, we tried to talk them into, you want to overestimate everything. Definitely overestimate your rehab numbers. I'd say probably underestimate on the ARV. Just because, make yourself that you're going to get the property and you're not going to, overspend or come up with an ARV that's not accurate. I mean, in this case, it was rehab costs that really cost the deal for us, just, taking a look at it. I mean, obviously it was a major project, but really couldn't agree on how much this would really cost. Obviously some other things such as zoning issues, which again, kind of going back to Matt, what you had said about the zoning and doing that due diligence up front, especially on a mixed use type property. But yeah, I mean, that stuff is huge. So those estimates are very, very important to take a look at.
Does anybody on the call have an experience with either having a grossly underestimated rehab budget, or underestimating the ARV, or maybe overestimating the ARV? It's not being worth that. Anybody have any experience with this? You will. It'll happen. Something's going to happen in everybody's first deal. It's going to be a surprise. I know the one that we had with my dad on the call here, we ended up putting almost $7,000 of floor into a property that otherwise was good. It was a very poorly installed tile floor in a restaurant, and it was slippery and it was causing a tripping hazard. And when a pipe broke in the middle of the night, we found leaks everywhere and just said, screw it, we're just going to replace everything. So that was not expected, but we did have a pool there. Stephanie just asked, where's the best place to find deals for investments, the MLS versus off market? That's a great question. And it's the answer that everybody's looking for. In reality, the straight answer is any deal that you can find right now that doesn't have competition is worth seriously considering the value, because if it's on the MLS, a lot of people have it. If it went to an agent to be published, the seller didn't know people, the seller's agent didn't know people, and everybody in their internal network didn't know someone who wanted to buy this before it went public. So unless you can find something that's listed that's undervalued or maybe has a higher and better use, going directly to a seller is your best bet. Now that's hard, and that's something that everybody always talks about, but nobody actually does. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of persistence to find these seller deals. But if you have an off-market thing that no one knows about, that's huge. That deal that CJ was just talking about, the owner had offered seller financing, and that's something that no one ever thinks about in this market. It's a massive opportunity. So Stephanie, to answer your question, you just got to look. We don't know where they come from. And if you're creative and you can find a deal that's sitting around and you can maybe turn that single family house into a 2-unit that nobody else thought of, that's a perfectly good opportunity there. So anybody have suggestions on that?
Yeah, I would say, Matt, that can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, good. I would say that for new investors, keep it simple. You don't want to get into a property that you have to do a lot of capital expenditures in order to get to the ARV value that you're expecting. Keep it simple. And what I mean by that is buy something that maybe needs a little bit of updating, some cosmetics, and has an ARV that's practical, reasonable, and you've researched it and you know that that ARV is probably good because of the properties that have sold to comps and whatnot. And so then and then buy that property and get it rented out if you're looking for long term. It really depends on what your goals are. I caution new investors from getting into the flipping game, only because it's not something that you have experience with, and it's something that takes a lot of time to understand what you can do, and it takes contacts and all of the things necessary to flip a house, that sort of thing. But long-term investment, real estate is really a long-term investment strategy, in my opinion. Okay. It's something that you want to do for a period of time to increase your wealth and build your portfolio. So you want to keep it simple starting out, and then as you gain more experience, you can get into more properties that have a little more to do before you can get them to where they need to be.
That's great. Stephanie, did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you, guys.
All right, great. Does anybody have any follow-up or questions about the stuff we talked about today, whether it be how to avoid the bad deal or estimating ARV? I know we kind of dove deep in a lot of the stuff and I had a little bit of a computer glitch there, but what questions do you have?
Matt, can you talk a little bit about the expectations of agents, setting that expectation when you're talking to an agent for a particular area? You want him to research potential opportunities. What should an investor expect of an agent?
That is a great question. And I wish that more people had this approach. When you're working with someone who's licensed, you definitely need to understand what's normal for the market and what's normal for you. Now, not all agents, wholesalers, attorneys, accountants are created equal. Obviously, our team, we like what we do. We hold everything to a high standard, and sometimes that's still not enough. You know, to be totally honest with you, there's some clients that just see what we do and it's not enough, which is wild because we do more than 99% of people out there. But you need to make sure you're explicitly clear in the beginning with what your needs are as an investor. And if you don't know what they are, that's okay too. They can help you find what your goals are, but you should know exactly what they plan on doing. It should be outlined from the very beginning of how they're going to find properties for you, what markets they're going to look in, what your comfort level is, maybe what your exposure risk is. Because remember, this is investing. It's not like in the market investing. You're not going to lose everything tomorrow, but you could buy a property that could get you in a lawsuit and end up with a really bad scenario. So there's things to consider here. And when you're working with a professional like an agent or anyone, whether it be an advisor or a mentor, it doesn't have to just be an agent. We have people we work with and closely for that, you know, they don't want us as an agent. They really want us as like a checks and balance mentor type thing. That's a different relationship. You need to know what you're willing to do, and the agent needs to know what they need to do to get you where you're going. But there's a certain limit where we just can't advise you. You have to talk to your attorney or your accountant, and everything's disclosed, even though we'll go out on the limb for a lot of people. We give you examples from our experience, but that's about it. Interview them, ask them the hard questions, and they're going to do the same to you. We won't work with everybody, and that's just okay because we want to make sure that you're a serious investor. But Richard, did that answer your question?
Yeah. Well, let me capitalize a little bit on some of that. Your agent is there for you to write offers on properties that you might consider. Okay. Don't expect your agent to hire a contractor and to manage those resources to to say, for example, home inspections and things like that. Don't expect your agent to deal with that sort of thing. This is why I said earlier that you want to start locally where you are, because you have a responsibility, the first responsibility, to do your due diligence. It's not the agent's responsibility. If the agent tells you, well, it looks like a great house, well, you may not think so if you saw it. If you're not in the area, well, how are you going to know? So that's something I want to emphasize, because a lot of people think that new investors particularly think that the agent can just going to go out there and visit these homes that they're considering, and do a lot of the due diligence work for them. That's not what your agent's there for. We'll do more than most agents, of course, as Matt said, but we're not going to manage your resources in terms of contractors, or you're going to hire somebody to do a home inspection or get estimates on repairs. That sort of thing is your responsibility, not the agent. That said, I would also suggest that you have your financing in place already. As agents, we will ask you, do you have the financing in place? How are you going to buy the properties that you want to invest in? Well, if you say, well, I'm going to use hard money, well, you might want to talk to your hard money lender. We may want to determine if you are pre-qualified for the properties you want to buy. If you have a letter from a bank suggesting that you are able to purchase, or you're pre-qualified to purchase a house for a certain amount, we may ask for that letter. Be willing to give that. And if you don't have that, then, and you're just browsing, so to speak, well, you're going to find it hard to get agents to work for you, because they don't know whether or not you're a serious buyer or not. Okay, so just understand the relationship between yourself, the agent, and all the resources that you're going to need in order to qualify a property for purchase.
You make a great point that sometimes I forget. And to be totally honest with everybody, we think about every deal as an investor before we think about it as an agent. And we try and take our hats off to, look at it from one side all the time. But Richard is 100% right. If you're looking to an agent for advice, your limitation there is that there's going to be certain things that they're not going to be able to tell you. You're an adult, you have your driver's license, and you are a manager of your own money. So you know what's best for you. We can give you our opinion, but a lot of the times we do go above and beyond for the clients, and sometimes it's not possible. There's other scenarios where we just can't get involved. However, if I was doing it as an investor, it'd be a totally different story. So it's going to be case by case. I know, Rich, your market's a little bit different where you're operating in, but you've had clients take advantage of you. Just like everyone in your job, you would not want to punch in for work and have your workload doubled with your pay stay the same. Even though we are in the relationship business, you do want to stay in your lane and recognize what people are professional for. So that's really good points, Richard. Thanks for bringing that up.
Sure.
John, do you have any follow-up on that?
No, not specifically to that, but just again, to kind of reiterate what we've gone through, what you said earlier, but what we're going through a lot of now is as a buyer, make sure you're interviewing multiple agents, not just the first one that your cousin told you about. Get everything, as Matt kind of started the whole conversation. Find out what the game plan is, how everything's going to be done, but also all expenses, all closing costs, everything that could be provided to you. Make sure that you're getting that up front, so there's nothing hidden that you don't expect.
You should have no problem talking about that stuff. Any person you work with, this is a business, and everybody's on this call because you want to generate wealth or some sort of cash flow through real estate. You want to make a good financial decision. And as agents who are working with you, or any person who works with you, upfront transparency and honesty is very important. So talk about it, get it out in the open, because you do not want to find out about something you don't like when your offer is due in 2 hours. It can be It can be a surprise to a lot of people. So, all right, we'll wrap up that question session on the topics from today. How about just general questions? Does anybody on the call have a deal that they're working on or recently worked on, or it was a slam dunk where they really had a good success, or they learned something or made a lot of great investments with one? Anybody? How about the opposite, where you totally lost everything and it was a huge learning experience and you hate yourself for doing it? Really? Come on, guys.
I have a question.
Yeah, Jordan, what's up?
It's not necessarily a deal that I've done. It's just in my area, I noticed there was a house that was pretty distressed, and I was interested in contacting the owner to see if potentially they wanted to sell it or what the case was. And in doing so, I found out that this property is actually up for auction relatively soon. I think in like 2 or 3 weeks. And I was just, it's up for auction at a courthouse. And I was just wondering, I have no experience with that. What does that typically look like? And what's needed for that?
First step is, if it's on an auction list, it's been through the ringer of all these different scenarios. If you want to go and participate and attend the auction, you're entitled to as a citizen. However, most of these you need to pre-register. If you plan on buying anything, you need to show some sort of proof of funds or buy it in cash. So if it's up for sale and it's in the Bethlehem area, it'll publish where the auction is, the time, and all the details about it. And there is a cutoff for who can show up and win. Now, here's a huge caveat. When you buy a piece of real estate that's at any sort of auction, depending on the type, whether it be a tax share or a tax sale, sheriff's sale, and Richard has a lot more experience in this than us, there are huge caveats to every property before you put a bid that you want to know very clearly what you're getting into bed with. There's properties that are on the tax sale list and the upset list, or maybe the judicial sale list, the sheriff sale, that have lots of strings attached. And just because they're up for sale doesn't mean there's no baggage attached to that house. There could be hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt from the current owner that you don't see. There could be all of these different things, and you want to definitely do your research on all of these properties before you go and even bid $1, because $1 sounds like a great deal if you get the property. But if it comes with $1 million of liability, it is a really, really bad deal. So the way to find out about the properties and dig more is through a title or a lien search. And unfortunately, they are not free unless you walk down to the courthouse and you do the work yourself, which is possible and it's very free. You can go in, you can get copies of everything that's filed because it's all public record. But the average person doesn't know how to do that and interpret what they see. So we hire title companies to do a full search on properties like that we're seriously interested in, and it's worth the money to pay them to avoid a bad deal. And that's kind of what we talked on earlier, is if you have a few dollars out of pocket to a home inspector to see if the foundation's good before you write an offer, if it's great, you move forward. If it's not, it was a cheap price to pay for avoiding that big bad deal. So straight answer to your question, just because it's on a list doesn't mean it's a great deal. There are good deals on the sheriff's list, but use caution. Richard, what do you think?
No, I think that's exactly right. Yeah.
Nothing else?
No.
Thanks. That's something I can talk to you guys like off air or at some other time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Give you more details on.
Jordan, to be totally honest, Richard's the guy to talk to about that stuff. If he's willing to have a few minute conversation with you, I could send you his contact info if you want to exchange it here in the chat. He has a ton of experience with that stuff. And he actually did a whole presentation last year on estate tax sheriff sales. And we could revisit that subject because it's really interesting stuff.
Yeah, it is. And for title searches, just remember there's 2 types of title searches that I'm aware of anyway. There's a short title search where they look at the provenance of the title just the last few years, but a full title search is 60 years. And they'll go back and look at the provenance of the title from the date that or the time that the house was built. Those are the title searches that you want, and you can get those done on any property outside of any transaction if you're willing to pay for it, and it's usually maybe a couple $100. So title searches are important, particularly for like tax sales, sheriff sales, things like that. You'll definitely want to do that. Pay that money up front, get it done, so that you know that everything's going to be okay. And yeah, if you want to talk more about, and maybe Matt will do that. Maybe that's something I can do. You did the last few calls. Maybe I'll do that for December. Talk about off-market properties, title search, tax sales, sheriff sales, and how you can get information on those types of deals.
Yeah, for sure. We have some things lined up for December. It'd be pretty cool, but early next year for sure. Jordan, I just sent you Richard's contact information, so feel free to reach out and bug him.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Sure.
Matt?
Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
I got a question. Can you do the search online, or do you physically have to go to the courthouse?
You can do both. If you want to go to the courthouse, you're entitled to as a citizen, and you can sift through all the documents as a right to know, or you can do it online. However, I've personally asked this question to a title company and a rep that we know, and if you don't know what you're looking for, you could miss something huge. And even title searchers who do it professionally could miss a large lien on a property if it's not filed in the right place. So I've thought about paying to have access to the system just for our own use and for the team's use to find liens on properties that we're working with. However, it was highly advised against to just use that as the baseline. Hiring a professional search will be ensured that all of the right things are checked. So there are online title companies and searchers that you can pay. However, the prices vary drastically. So, Richard, do you have any experience to the contrary?
Not to the contrary. No, I think that answer was correct. I think that when there's different types of liens that can be placed on titles, including, of course, the liens from the loan, any loans that may be against the property, but also there's mechanic liens, there's tax liens, there's municipal liens, and not all of them are filed at the same time or recorded correctly. So, yeah, you definitely want to pay for a title company to do that. And the reason why you want to do that is because if you were to buy that property and something comes up with the title after the fact, the title company certified to you that the title was good to go. If something comes up, that's what title insurance covers. Okay. Mm-hmm. So that's why you want to use a title company to do the work instead of doing it yourself.
So is the search and the insurance on the search two different line items?
No, they're one line item. If the title company does it, then the insurance is implied.
Okay. And if you have a mortgage of any type through a bank or a lending institution, they will absolutely require a title search and title insurance, period, because it's their asset until it's paid off. So they will require that.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Yeah. Elaine, you had a suggestion of a future topic, off-market properties. That's a really good one. I know Richard kind of touched on that in the past. We'll add that to the list. We do have like a Rolodex of things to touch in the future. Just for everybody's information, I think December, we're going to try and do something around the middle, same kind of date ranges we're in right now, December. And I believe we're going to have our friend Mike, the home inspector, remote at a home doing an actual home inspection while we're all on the phone, and you can watch what he does, which would be really cool. And he's super excited about that. He had offered to put together a PowerPoint, and I'm like, why don't we just have you on the phone? If you could call in, you could do one of our places or somebody else's, and he's super pumped. So That'll be awesome. If you have any other suggestions, just please shoot them to us in an email and we'll get them on the list. We got a few minutes left. If anybody has any questions, just want to talk BS about things or talk about scenarios, we're here for another 20 minutes. Or if you want to punch out and be on with the rest of your weekend, we're open book. Yeah, John.
Hey, man, the one thing I just wanted to add, going back to the municipal auctions, was be careful of there are some auctions where you do not have access to do inspections prior to the auction. We had a client who bought a place in Philadelphia for $25,000. Turns out there was a fire in the basement and all the timbers, structural timbers, have to be replaced. It ended up buckling foundation walls. The cost to rehab it is gonna far outreach any ARV in that area. So just be careful.
And she was a licensed real estate agent who should have done a lot of due diligence and did not.
With that being said, I know the topic today is like estimating ARV. How do you go about estimating ARV on something in this situation, in that like you can't see the inside of the house? Like maybe you know how many bedrooms, maybe you know how many baths. You know the condition of the exterior, but you can't actually tour the house.
So you're asking how to determine rehab costs?
I'm asking to determine like
ARV on
ARV.
You can't identify repairs needed.
The ARV is a fixed number in space. That's a fixed estimate in space. It's the variable.
Yeah, the truth of it is that you can't determine it, because if you can't, you're missing part of your formula. If you don't know what it's going to cost to fix the place, if you can't even see what it needs to be fixed, well, then there's no way to know if ARV is not going to matter at that point. Right. So I would say if you can't get it, I don't buy properties or get into the properties that I can't go inside and see what's up. And if I can't see the inside of it, there's no way in the world I'm going to be bidding on it from an auction. I don't care if I got it for $1, because at the end of the day, like in John's example, that house is better to be torn down and just build something new. But that's, how are you going to know that, right? They spent 25 grand plus the cost of having to probably tear down that house. And now they got an empty lot that's worth nothing until they build something new.
Yeah, I guess I shouldn't have said ARV, because that's implying that repair is needed. I think it's more, I guess what I was looking at is more of like estimating the cost of the house. But like what it's worth, its value, but it's hard to do that too without obviously being able to see the house on the inside.
Right.
Well, you're right on, Jordan. It's just a different approach to the formula. The actual value of that house really, in John's example, is like negative $10,000. She should pay someone to take it, because even though she paid $25,000 for it, it's certainly not worth that. If you have to rebuild the whole house, and that's where you as an investor and your team will walk into it and be like, whoa, hang on a second, this is not it. This is not workable. But she didn't have the opportunity to walk through. And in your example of the sheriff's or tax sale, just keep in mind that there's some of these places you're going to have to make an offer sight unseen and without walking through, and that is a huge, huge risk. But when you get to a point where you have enough experience and enough resources that you could just blindly write offers on places you've never been in. I mean, we have a client that does that. He writes offers on places for 80% of their tax assessed value. And for anybody on the call, the tax assessed value is basically a made up bullshit number that the assessor's office says, this is how much you're going to pay taxes on. It's less than half of its market value most of the time. And he just writes offers based on that. And he figures if he gets enough properties under his belt at that number, he'll get a bad dud once in a while that will make up the difference. So, I mean, there's really no way to truly tell unless you have a repair estimate.
Yeah, it's just something I'm interested in, not necessarily something I'm going to follow through with, but it is something I'm interested in, especially in this market where anything that is on market that looks like a deal is gone in like a day or two.
Absolutely.
So I'm just trying to look at it in a different angle, or attacking it differently than what I've done in the past, because what I've done in the past doesn't really work.
anymore.
Yeah. Find yourself an agent that has access to off-market opportunities. That's one recommendation that I can suggest. The other is join local like groups similar to ours where they advertise properties that real estate groups exist all over the country in different areas. So join a real estate group and find out what they offer in terms of off-market opportunities. That's really the way to look. By the time it hits the MLS, it's already been evaluated 100 times over. And if it was a good deal, somebody would have already bought it.
As a way of reminder and suggestion, I noticed that the last couple of months of meetups were not on YouTube. So just a reminder for people like myself who've been unable to attend live, it would be great to be able to go back and check them out.
Yes. Ryan is in the process of becoming a dad right now. So he's the one who makes our videos. And as soon as his baby is out and they are functioning, the videos will be uploaded. So I appreciate everybody's patience in the meantime.
Yeah,
And
is that okay, Elaine?
Yeah, it'll be a little bit.
Yeah, is it okay to have a baby?
Sometimes. I didn't have one, but that doesn't mean I didn't want one. My baby was my last 4 pets.
What other questions we have? I have one suggestion or one ask of everybody. If you can find people that have similar interests as you, or you think they might find value, please invite them to these events. Have them send us a message to get on the mailing list. We put all this stuff out there for free in hopes of connecting with people who are like-minded individuals looking to do deals, educate everybody, and just kind of be in this. Because if you don't talk about it, you don't learn about it. You can't just sit there and read a computer screen. Interacting and asking questions is the most important way to learn. So I thank everybody for joining. This has been a pretty good number. We had over 20 in total, which is nice. Not bad for a Saturday. So, John, you have anything in the office?
No, anybody here? Anybody have anything? No, we're all good here. Jim walked in just while you, I don't know if you saw that. Jim walked in right while you were showing his his listing.
Good. Did you tell him it's a really crappy rental?
Yeah, I was like, it was way overpriced. Who priced this thing?
His son, obviously. That's what. All right, everybody. We don't have anything else. Thank you again for joining. I really appreciate everybody's time. If you have any questions or need anything, please, you have all of our contact information. We send it in the email afterwards. So enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
See you guys.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks for all the effort you put into this.